From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ribbon Spire on the radio.
Hello to Aliza Hava Music. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for chat to you today. So, can you tell me, how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Well, I've actually been singing since I was a little girl. Singing was always something that I loved to do, and I started writing songs when I was about 9 years old. But I don't think I could have actually considered myself a singer-songwriter until I was probably about 16, 17. So it's been a few years. I've been doing this a long time.
So, can you tell me, going to take you right back when you first started, back in 2016. So, can you tell me more about your debut single that you released called Water to Fire?
The song Water to Fire is something that I wrote with a few friends of mine. We were sitting around a campfire in upstate New York, where I used to live, in an area called the Hudson Valley. And a friend of mine was working for, well, she created an organization called Frack Action. And the organization it was founded in order to fight against fracking and the natural gas industry, because people were finding that this action of fracking, which would basically extract natural gas from the earth, was causing the water tables in different communities to become poisoned, so people could not use their groundwater anymore. And this was happening all over the Northeast in different areas, and on the East Coast. And so Frack Action was the organization that was created to fight against the natural gas industry. And so I had been asked to compose a song to go on a compilation to fight against fracking. And so the song Water to Fire is a reference to the symbolism of when people would turn on their water fountains, their faucets in their houses. You could set fire to the water because of all the chemicals that were coming out of their faucets. And people were making videos saying, look what they've done to our groundwater, and they could set their kitchen water on fire. So this was where the concept of water to fire came from. So it's really an anti-fracking song. And then when the Standing Rock Sioux tribe was fighting against the North Dakota Access Pipeline, and they had the standoff with the police, I was very moved to release this song in support. The song hadn't actually been released yet, so I released it in support of the Standing Rock Sioux, because they're fighting the same fight, right? It's protecting their groundwater from being destroyed from a pipeline that was going to be running straight through the reservation, a pipeline that had been known to leak in different areas and destroy groundwater. So that's what that song's about.
So, got a nice studio behind you there. So, do you record your debut single in the studio?
So the song Water to Fire, I actually I collaborated with a producer and artist and multi-instrumentalist named Ron Zabrocki. And Ron is sadly no longer with us. He passed away last year, very unexpectedly. But Ron is actually the person who he recorded every single instrument on that record, on that song. As a multi-instrumentalist, like you see this is a sample studio behind me, you can tell. But Ron's studio was similar to this in that he was able to play every single instrument and just do the multi-tracking. And we worked really well together. He was able to turn my vision and my demo into a fully produced track. And because he also had a Cherokee lineage, he was able to channel his roots into the sound of the song. And I think he did a fantastic job. And I was so honored to collaborate with him on that track. And on the record that I put out in 2020, Natural State, he was the producer on that as well.
Yes, we're trying about that very shortly. So can you tell me more about the debut EP that released called Songs for Social Change?
Sure. So early on in my career, I was very moved to write music with a message of activism and a message of making a difference, changing the world. That's always been something that I've been very passionate about ever since I was a kid. I wanted to do something that made a difference. And those songs on that EP are it's basically a compilation of a lot of my earliest recordings. So Water to Fire is on there. My song called Rise, which is actually from an album I put out that's you can't find it on Spotify or anything because I put it out, you know, I would say that it's kind of like an unreleased release type of thing, so you're not going to find it online. But that song Rise was actually on a compilation, Occupy, this album, 99 songs for the 99%. And so that compilation came out in 2011, and you can hear other artists like Amanda Palmer and Ani DeFranco and Jackson Brown on that compilation as well. So it was very much an honor to be part of that project. So Rise is on there, and also I wrote a song about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for a high school educational curriculum. They asked me to compose a song that would teach about the life of Dr. King. So that's that song, and you know the whole EP basically has messages to empower and inspire people through the songs and the music.
So can you tell me more about your debut album called Natural State?
Sure. Natural State is a project that I worked on for quite a few years. I started writing the songs when I was in college, and it took me a long time to find the right producer, to be honest, because I had been working with another producer who had worked with Amy Winehouse and Joss Stone, and we were working on that record for about a year. And then he had some kind of, I don't know, mental breakdown. It was very sad. He had a loss in his family or some health incident with his mother. And he just kind of disappeared in the middle of making the record, which was very difficult and put things on hold for a long time. And it took a while until I found Ron Zbrocki, who kind of like a angel sent from above, because he was able to take the unfinished tracks that we had recorded and create new tracks out of them. And then we worked together for probably over a year to make an entire record remotely. So I was living in California at the time. He was living in Connecticut, and we would just send these tracks back and forth to each other. And I think he, again, you know, just did an incredible job of translating my songs and sound into art. So I'm very grateful to him, and I wish he was still walking the earth.
So can you tell me more about the single that you released called Emotion Tide?
Sure. So Emotion Tide came out in 2022. And this was a bucket list kind of recording project that I'd been wanting to do for a long time. I wrote the song essentially, you know, with a friend. His name's Derek Olivero. We had started collaborating a while back, and this was a song that we had written together that had never actually been recorded professionally. And so I had an opportunity to go to upstate New York to work with a drummer named Jerry Murata. And Jerry used to play drums for Peter Gabriel. He used to play drums for the Indigo Girls. And even he's played with Stevie Nicks and on Sarah McLachlan's earliest records. Some of my favorite artists and those recordings that influenced me as an artist while I was growing up, those songs were all, you know, Jerry Murata on the drums. So Jerry now is the manager of a studio in upstate New York called Dreamland. And I had this window of time, and I had gotten a grant because of COVID. COVID had obviously, you know what happened with artists during lockdown. So I was very fortunate to be able to secure a grant for artists, and I decided that I wanted to put it into, making a new recording. And so I went to New York, recorded with Derek on the guitar, with Jerry Marotta on the drums, and Michael Visaglia, who was Suzanne Vega's musical director, on the bass. And yeah, it was a really fun experience. And then I came back to California and finished the mixing and the vocals with Michael Blue at Revolver Studios in Thousand Oaks, and that's what kicked off the recording of my new record, Into the Light.
So, can you tell me more about the? I know you released a single that called "Arise, Women of This Day." So, can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So, Arise, Women of This Day is written to the words of Julia Ward Howe, who was a feminist. She was an activist in the 1870s in the United States. She was alive during the Civil War, and she was working very hard to get a woman's right to vote in the United States, because at that time, women still weren't legally allowed to vote. So she was a very hard worker. She was a poet. She also wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic. She co-wrote that song, which you may be familiar with. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Anyhow, someone came to me a few years back and they said, I would love to hear you set this to music, set this song, the Mother's Day Proclamation. It wasn't a song at the time. It was a treatise that she had written calling for women around the world to come together to put an end to war. And I obviously, as an activist, I've always been anti-war. And I believe that, people have a lot more in common than we do separate. I believe that we need to work for unity and peace and healing. And so I set the song to music, and then I had an opportunity to go to Austin, Texas, and work in a studio there, which was a wonderful experience. And we recorded the song back in April of this year, and then I put it out just a few weeks after we finished recording it. So, Arise, Women of This Day is a call to action for women to unite and put an end to war all over the world. But also, it was the treatise that started Mother's Day in the United States. And we wouldn't have Mother's Day if it wasn't for that document by Julia Ward Howe. So I put the song out on Mother's Day this past year.
So, can you tell me more about the album they're going to release next year called Into the Light?
Sure. So, Into the Light is something that is the whole album is very near and dear to my heart. As you have heard, I've always wanted to put a message into my music of, empowerment and social change. But in this album, I actually turn the lens inward, and I'm talking more about my own struggles and my own process of healing. I actually grew up in a very violent household, and the way that impacted and shaped my life. I would say that in some ways it gave me a perspective on life that I'm grateful for. But on another note, it's given me a lot of challenges that I wish I didn't have to have. And I think a lot of people can relate to that when you grow up in a kind of abusive and violent environment. It doesn't exactly, give you a solid foundation for going out into the world. So I've always found that music was a healing tool for me to deal with my stuff, my things that I needed to work through in my life. And I ended up writing this album as a way of processing a lot of things that I've been through and also coming clean about things that I'd been holding on to for my entire life, things that needed to get out of my system. And I also found that writing and recording the album was incredibly cathartic, as music can be, and that people who have been through similar things as I have can really relate to the record, and even people who haven't can relate to the record because it's really for anybody who has gone through difficulties in their lifetime. There's a story to be told and there's a song to be sung. And as we all know, music can have incredible healing power. So for me, that's what Into the Light is all about. And I really hope that the people who connect with the music will also feel healed by the songs and the stories that I'm sharing, because it's all about coming into the light, out of darkness and into light, so that these things don't have power over us anymore.
So, can you tell me more about the campaign that you run in for Into the Light album?
Sure. So I'm running a crowdfunding campaign right now as an independent artist. I'm reaching out to my community and to new listeners who can relate to my story and what I'm sharing musically. And I really believe that this album has the power to have an impact, especially when talking about the kinds of things that I've been sharing about, the impact that violence and abuse has on children, but also in general, domestic violence. And what I'd like to do is bring the album to the world in a professional way in order to tell the story and get it to people who can relate to it. Getting some feedback there.
Yeah, there's a storm going outside.
Okay. I'm running the crowdfunding campaign as a pre-order campaign so people can support the release of the album. I'm hiring a team to help me get it out into the world. And yeah, so far it's going amazing. We're about 2.5 weeks in, and we're about 71% of the way to our goal. So I'm really grateful for that, and everybody who's kicked in to help make it happen. It's amazing. So I am extremely grateful. And for anybody who'd like to check it out, it's at intothelightmusic.com.
So, can you tell me, what's it like being an independent artist?
It's a lot of hats. I wear a lot of hats. I love being a musician. I love writing songs. It's something that, for me, has been a lifeline. It's really helped me get through hard times. But the business side of it is a whole other animal, right? So it takes a different side of your brain. And as an independent artist these days, you're really responsible for everything from, organizing your productions and your releases and work and your social media. And people who aren't involved in the music business understand necessarily how many different aspects of the business it takes for an artist to get their music to the world. And I think it's important for people to understand that independent art be doing everything themselves that a label would be doing for a signed artist. So for example, PR, radio promotion, marketing, tour booking, merchandise creation, collaborations, travel and appearances and photo shoots and video shoots and content shoots, and the list is endless. So it's definitely fun. It's definitely a lot of work, and sometimes you really want to find the right people to be on your team, and you really need to find people, for me personally, I really want to find people of integrity who have similar values as I do, because it's important that you work with a team who really understands what your vision is and what your mission is and how you want to tell your story to the world. And I think it's important for all independent artists to have that kind of support and team behind them. So that's why I'm doing the crowdfunding campaign, is to be able to put my team together and make it happen.
So I know you're coming out to the UK soon. So can you tell me more about them gigs you got in the UK?
Sure. So I'm coming to the UK for the very first time to perform, and I'm extremely excited about it. This is something I've been wanting to do since I was, just starting out. I always had this feeling like I want to go play in London. I want to go play in the UK in general, and Manchester. It's just a feeling that I have of just feeling like I can connect with like-minded people through the music. And I'm coming to play 3 shows. I'm going to be at the WOMEX Worldwide Music Expo in Manchester, and I'll be playing at the Retro Bar in Manchester on October 25th, on Friday. And then the following Monday, the 28th, I'll be playing at the Half Moon Putney as part of their New Moon Showcase. And then on Friday, November 1st, I'll be playing at the Piano Smithfield Showcase as well. And so really excited. I'm I'm very much looking forward to it.
So finally, can you tell my listeners where can I find you on your social media?
So you can find me by my name, Aliza Hava Music. It's ALIZAHAVA Music. And you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the places. I've got music on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you stream music, you can find my songs. And I've got music videos on YouTube and Facebook, all the places.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Thank you so much, Ruben. I really appreciate you asking me on your show. And I look forward to meeting you when I come over there. And thanks. Thanks to everybody who's listening.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Ruben.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.